to the flag salute, please.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board Borough Hall, by email to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same provided by law of a schedule including the date and time of this meeting. I'd like to remind all members of the public that we have 3 fire exits, one there, one behind me, one over there. In addition, we're being recorded by both audio and video. We're on, correct? And creating a record for the public portion of this meeting. If any member of the public wishes to be recorded or heard, they need only identify themselves by stating their full name for the record, and they may make a statement or ask any questions they like. Roll call, please. Another thing I need to talk to them about. All right, so just write down the names, huh?
Roll call, so she calls the right person. My dear.
Dr. Gurwitz?
Here.
Mr. Gray?
Here.
Mr. Merman?
Here.
Mr. Arakilian?
Here.
Grasso. Mr. Grasso.
Mr. Grasso?
Here.
Ms. Boland is excused, Mayor Mignon has been excused, and Councilman Aquafetta has been excused.
And Chris Cousin?
I haven't heard from him.
Oh.
He may have been stuck at work.
I want to first welcome everybody and say Happy New Year's 2018. Hopefully it'll be a good year again, as we did last year. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Craig.
Appreciate it.
And the other members that were reappointed at the, I guess it was the city dive on the first. Okay, so first we have the reorganization of the board and the election of officers. Do I have a nomination for chair?
You got it.
Do I have a
You.
second?
See, nobody wants you. Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Been moved by Mr. Merman, seconded by Mr. Gray.
That's correct.
Dr. Gurwitz?
Yep.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Grasso?
Yes.
And Mr. Merman?
Yes.
Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate it. Good. I'm on my 21st year this year, coming in, and it's been a wild ride, and we've been together a few times. I appreciate everybody up here, I do. Everybody works hard, and everybody really adds to a great planning board and zoning board or municipal land use board, whatever you want to call it. So I just want to know how much I appreciate everybody here. Okay, for vice chairman, I would like to renominate Mr. Merman as our vice chairman. Do I have a second?
Seconded by Mr. Gurwitz. Dr. Gurwitz?
Mm-hmm. Election, and roll call, please.
Okay, Dr. Gurwitz?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Grasso?
Yes.
Chair Arakilian?
Yes. Next is the nomination of our board secretary. Mr. Gurwitz, you do an excellent job. I'd love for you to continue on, if you'd be willing. So I'd like to nominate Mr. Gurwitz.
Second.
And seconded by Mr. Merman?
Right.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Grasso?
Yes.
Mr. Merman?
Yes.
Chair Arakilian?
Yes. Okay, next is our appointment of professionals. Our first professional up is for the attorney. Is there a way we can nominate you instead of Mr. Chakowski?
Absolutely.
I guess we'll nominate Mr. Chakowski, even though we're very happy to have his associate with us this evening. Do I have a second for Mr. Chakowski?
So,
Mr. Gerwitz, Dr. Gerwitz? Roll call, please.
Dr. Gerwitz?
yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Grasso?
Yes.
Mr. Merman?
Yes.
Chair Killian.
Yes. Next up is our planner. I've worked with a bunch of planners in my 20 years, and I have to say that Tom has been excellent in representing the borough. He's a homegrown planner from the borough of River Edge, and we're very happy to have him, and I'm very excited to have him. And I would like to renominate him for the upcoming year. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Gerwitz?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Grasso?
Yes.
Mr. Merman?
Yes.
Chair Killian.
Yes. Welcome back, Tom. Being that the borough engineer is no longer here, Rob has been an excellent appointment for many years. He knows the town as well, I'd say probably as well as Mr. Merman, which is really saying something. He does a good job as far as I'm concerned, and I'd like to see him renominated, and I would move that we renominate our engineer, Bob Costa. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Gerwitz?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Grasso?
Yes.
Mr. Merman?
Yes.
Chair Killian.
Yes. Okay. On the agenda for completeness review was Michael and Jennifer Toda. I just want to read this into record. 143 Valley Road, Block 1101, Lot 25. And we spoke before the meeting started, and unfortunately the mailing and the notices were not sufficient. Congratulations, Mr. Costa.
I apologize.
That's okay.
I had a phone call from attorneys, so I apologize.
Well, you're gone. Welcome back, Mr. Costa. You missed all the wonderful things I said about you. So the Todas have to unfortunately renotice. I will speak to the municipal land use clerk, because he should have instructed them to either be earlier or for the next meeting. They should not have been here for this evening. So it's unfortunate, but we could not proceed with that application. New York Market, I believe that has been postponed. You have an email from Tom there?
Correct. Chair Killian, we received an email from Tom Barrett this
Folks,
afternoon requesting an adjournment of tonight's meeting. So if the board is inclined to adjourn this and carry, it would be my recommendation we set a date this evening and make an announcement so the applicant does not have to renotice.
Chairman, I have a question on that one.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Costa,
Yes.
the market. At the last meeting, you were going to go out the next day and look at that site.
We did.
Can you give us at least a verbal report?
Yeah, we sent, actually, we sent it to the entire board.
Okay,
Everybody should have.
okay, all right, fine. Okay,
You didn't get one?
no, I don't do email.
Still?
Yeah, no, that's why I'm happy. That and scotch, I'm doing fine.
I don't have an extra copy. If I don't, I'll give you the original.
I would like to instruct
Okay, but you
our
did go.
attorney to send a letter. My understanding is that they are operating currently under new management. They need to get in here.
I will do so. We will do so.
May I ask a question for the
Sure.
attorney? I'm just curious to know how this works. If an existing business goes under new management, but the business remains the same name, are they required by law to come before us for a new
Food
food license? So if the that's what I'm wondering, is it ownership or management? Meaning technically, if the owners of the business haven't changed, do they need to come? It's only when ownership changes. Because I'm just wondering, because if they say under new management, but they haven't transferred ownership yet, it doesn't really matter. They don't need a new food handler's license. Is that correct?
I don't have the ordinance with me, but it's my understanding if there's a change of ownership, they certainly have to appear before the board.
If there's an ownership change, but if there's still an ownership interest from the previous owner, can they change their name without having to get a new food handler's license?
Well, it depends, so let me make sure that I understand your question. Is your question, let's say that it's owned by ABC LLC, and ABC LLC remains the entity that owns it?
Or at least a majority ownership?
I think as long as the entity has not changed, maybe
Okay.
the percentages have changed, maybe the members have changed somewhat, but if ABC LLC is the
Okay.
same LLC,
Relative. Oh, okay.
So that's what I was wondering, if ABC LLC remains in existence, and the members of ABC LLC change, are they required by law to come before us because ABC LLC still owns it?
no. So for example, if you've got two members, each have a 50% ownership, and one of the members decides, I want to give up 10%, one member now has 60%, one has 40, that does not trigger an appearance before this board.
But if both of those members if both those members of ABC LLC,
Hello.
sorry,
Let the record show it's 8:17. Good evening, Mr. Gastelum. How are you this evening?
Good evening, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
so I just want to, if ABC owns it, and those two members go down to 1% share, bring in a 98% owner, does that trigger the requirement for them to come before for a new? I'm just trying to understand how the law could be skirted to not have to come before us. I just wanted to understand how the ordinance works.
Well, it depends. If the business is sold, I think certainly that would trigger an appearance before the board under the scenario you just described, and it sounds as though the business was technically sold.
Okay,
You still have two of the original members who have an ownership interest or percentage interest in the LLC,
okay,
and maybe they bring in a third guy.
yeah. So as long as, right, that's what I'm saying, as long as there's still some original ownership, it hasn't completely changed hands, it does not require a visit for the board.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted clarification, it has to completely change hands for that.
Right, and so if the business is sold, so if you have a corporation, you have an LLC, and that's sold, that may trigger an appearance before the board. Otherwise, I think the members are free to basically reallocate the percentage interest in the LLC or its corporation,
Okay,
in the corporation.
The only thing is a new business coming in would be, or should be, very hesitant in taking over an old LLC, because then you take all the liabilities with it.
oh, no, I'm very versed in that, I'm just curious about the methods that a company could skirt the requirements, and I was just wondering that it has to be a complete transition of ownership, not a change in the management per se, in terms of like the entity that owns the majority.
What I can do is this, I can review your ordinance, determine if there's anything that's different than what I stated on the record this evening, and report back at the next meeting.
Mhm.
But as far as I know, there's nothing in there, but I'm happy to.
I was just curious if a majority ownership change require, if that affects the requirement. I was just curious. Thanks.
Okay? Yeah, you research that, I'll have Brian research it.
I'll
for
take.
you. So New York Market has been excused for this evening. So our last order of business is the Estate of Tamborelli, Route 4, Main Street, 135 Kindercomack Road, Block 1025-1077, I'm sorry, that's the address, Main Street, Block 1404, Lot 1, 4, 5, and 3.01. Good evening. How are you this evening?
Good evening, Chairman. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Yes, Your Honor. Chairman, we're here on the, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Chairman, I have to recuse myself.
We'll put them on for the next meeting, yeah, all right, we'll take care of that after.
Yeah.
Mhm. Let it be known that Mr. Castleton had to recluse himself because his, group, firm does work for them, okay. Good evening.
Good evening. Chairman, by introduction, as we went over about a month ago, we're seeking a variance to permit the restaurant use to increase from 10,200 square feet to 10,575 square feet. By way of brief history, because we're all very familiar with this piece of property, In 2010, when we received the initial approval, we were permitted to have 20% restaurant, which was approximately 988 square feet. However, there was a limitation as to 10% for fast food use. We came back in 2014 after meeting with members of the board and the mayor, in part due to the fact that you had this growing fast casual restaurant type use, which was sort of a hybrid. At that point, it was determined that rather than deal with percentages, they would just adjust it to the 10,200 square feet. One of the prime tenants at that time was Francesca's, or anticipated tenants, which was the Italian market, which was really a hybrid because it was a shopping market and a restaurant, things of that nature. That use had approximately 5,840 square feet. Francesca's went out of business. We've now leased 3,200 square feet of that space to Pet Value. There's the remaining 2,640 square feet. And speaking with the people who market these properties and things of that nature, so we haven't been able to fill it now for quite some time, they suggested that if we could get the extra square footage for the restaurant of 375 feet, that they would anticipate.
So to be clear, you're basically just looking for 365 additional feet for a new restaurant, correct?
375, potential, yes.
Mhm. And you don't have a tenant currently interested in on the property?
Correct.
Okay.
And in terms of the parking, and this was addressed in your planner's letter or report, the requirement is approved for 282. We are at 286. So there is a slight surplus there, and that's based upon the 2014 resolution.
Okay.
You know, I do only have one witness. I didn't know if you want to have your plan.
Yeah, let's talk, let's first, anybody have any questions from the board?
I have a quick question. When you lease it, obviously, if you lease it to a food-oriented business, they still got to come before us again with a handler's license.
Food handlers and sign.
Yes, at that time. Okay.
Yes.
So we get another shot at you.
They don't always hire me.
Oh, okay.
They should.
Assuming the sign doesn't conform to the ordinance, maybe it will.
You're right. Maybe we'll get one. That does.
Anybody else? How about our professionals? Any questions?
Don't have any objections. It's fairly straightforward. It really is just involving the conversion of the 375 square feet. The question I raised about the parking was just, is there an increase in parking demand for that conversion of 375 from retail to restaurant use? I think at the retail level, it amounts to about 2 spaces. So what is that demand for a hypothetical restaurant use? Is there any difference? Do they have enough? And it's just a matter of record keeping to make sure they have the appropriate.
I think we'll probably hear that from your next witness, is that
You
correct?
will. And I would just like to say again, it wasn't just retail. That last one was a hybrid. It was very unusual in terms of use. Yes, Mr. Santini?
You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Martin Santini. I'm a licensed architect and licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey.
Mr. Santini, will you please provide the board with your business address?
29 Loman Court, Crestfield, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Mr. Santini has previously been approved by the board as an expert, so qualified.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I have prepared a very brief exhibit for you to review, and I'll mark it as applicant's exhibit number A1 with today's date. And what this exhibit represents is there's 4 documents on here. The first exhibit to the upper left is a partial of the McGowan site plan, which indicates the retail store number 2. It indicates the vacant 2,640 square feet that we're here for tonight. It also indicates the Pet Value Store, which we were here last month and we have approved. Then it has in yellow, it has the Cafe Tortilla with 2,784 square feet. The FedEx, which is not in yellow, 1,740 square feet. And the Habit Burger, 3,040 square feet. And the Dunkin' Donuts, 2,111 square feet. So what we are asking for is for this board to consider granting us approval for an additional 375 square feet in that one vacant store. As Mr. Carson alluded to you, this is the diagram of his analysis of the square footage for all the stores that I just read. And if you grant us the approval, the vacant space will be 2,640 square feet, bringing the total from 10,200 square feet to 10,575 square feet. The bottom of the photograph, or this exhibit, is a photograph of the store that we're talking about. This is the store that was Francesco's. It was 5,800 and some odd square feet. Pet Value took 3,200 square feet, leaving the balance for this potential new restaurant type use, the hybrid type use that we're talking about. And in this exhibit, you see California Tortillo, which is food oriented, obviously. The Habit Burger, which we also did, and the Dunkin' Donuts, which we also did, for this particular.
Could you address initially the parking, the net impact of the parking as raised by Mr. Barron's?
I was going to get to that, okay. So, in essence, what I have also is a plan of the old Francesco store. The Pet Value store took this portion of it, and that's the outline in yellow, as you can see, is the 2,640 square feet. And this piece that I'm going to put on, adjacent to this exhibit, is 375 square feet. So it's only 3.7 percent of the total area of that particular store. So what your planner had raised was the issue of the parking. And since we do have adequate parking on this site, there are 286 parking spaces, 282 are required, which gives us a surplus of approximately 4 spaces, which could accommodate up to 10 additional seats in the 375 square feet. So with that being said, increasing the resolution that was approved in 2014 from 10,200 to 10,575 would not be detrimental to the intent and purpose of your zone plan, your zoning ordinance, the resolution approved at that particular time, or would it have a negative impact on the parking that is existing out of this particular neighborhood shopping center? And I would respectfully request that the board consider the presentation, consider the issues of what we have, and hopefully that you will see your way to positively grant approval of this project.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Yeah, kind of a silly question, but assuming you didn't get the approval for this variance, where does that 375 feet get carved out of the space?
Well, then that becomes a question. My attorney can tell you better, but it appears that under the land use law, that it's a built environment already, it's out there, it's existing, and it would be a hardship on the owners if they could not incorporate that into a potential lease for one of these new fast casual food operators that might consider coming here because of its great location as to where it is.
Doc?
I was thinking, so just to surmise, if we did not grant relief, then they would be limited to lease that essentially only to a retail space that was offering
non-food oriented sales.
Yes, that would be the correct assumption.
And so is it been deemed by the landlords that that option is not viable for a tenant? A
it has been-
non-food, as you're here before the board asking for relief,
Right.
obviously you're trying to open up your possibilities to rent. But
Right.
has there been no attempt to lease that space to a non-food oriented business?
No, they've been continuing to try to lease it.
Is that okay for me to ask?
It's a good question.
Yeah, that's a
Good-
that's
appropriate
okay.
question.
Yeah, no, they have been, and that's why this came up, because they have been able to, we were able to get pet value in a portion of it, obviously, and this makes it a more viable space.
How long has Francesca's been out?
No, they were only open for like 2 or 3 months,
Yeah.
right?
It's been over a year, I
Yeah.
think.
And so there's been good faith attempt to find non-food oriented businesses to lease that space split? Or, I'm just curious, did Pet Value, were they trying to lease the entire space and then recently Pet Value came in and wanted less and now they are trying to decide what to do and they want to open their options?
No, they don't want the other space, pet value.
No, I'm saying, was it initially that they tried to lease the entire space or did they subdivide it once Francesca's left?
No, they were trying to lease the entire space, but willing to subdivide, basically.
So we don't know exactly what their effort has been now that Pet Value took to lease the 2,640 square feet to a non-food oriented business.
They have been continuing to market the property through their brokerage agreement, brokers. The Pet Value, even though they're only there recently, that started 6-7 months ago. They've been continuing to market the property.
Good luck.
I don't see any negatives to what they're asking for.
Good.
You're
You're awfully quiet this
One
evening,
question on the parking, you said you've got enough
300 feet.
additional spots to cover the 10. Is there also a net negative too because of the, you moving it out of the retail? You're saying you need 10 spaces because it's dining. Was there a different, I mean, so is it really a net 8 that you need to cover, or is it 10?
It's 10, it should be 10, you should consider.
Do you, well, it's hard to say. Yeah. Any outdoor dining? Foresee any
Well,
possibility?
You know, I think the sidewalk is not really conducive out here
Okay,
to it, it's just too narrow, I don't.
okay, so remember that when you come back. Okay.
That issue was raised way back when, and I believe the town was gonna address
They have an ordinance, yes.
And I don't know if it was done or not.
I think there is an ordinance.
There is an
I don't know what the
ordinance, but I
minimum
was just-
width for a sidewalk has to be.
Yeah, maybe, probably not there, but I don't think anybody's intending to do it.
Maybe outside Total Wine would be nice, right?
Yeah, really.
I remember reading it, but there has to be a certain amount of feet left for a right-of-way after you put the table in. I don't know what the width of that sidewalk is.
It's not that wide.
Yeah, it's only about 90 feet.
Is there any impact on the refuse? I mean, it's hard to tell without a specific client, but do you foresee any?
There shouldn't be a material.
Okay.
Mr. Consi, was there something about the refuge you wanted to address?
I mean, the property owner trying to address, when I say recently, with the gates, they took the gates down, now they have a sliding gate out there. Again, the issue with that is, as the snow piles up, then you can't slide inside the gate. So really, there's no great way to do these things. Other than, I think as time goes on, one really has to look at it, to get very serious with the garbage. Every mall, the one in the middle of the town, this one, the garbage is always an issue. And if you remember 7-Eleven, how they came in and told the story how great their garbage refuse area is. I was down there the other day, and the gate is wide open.
Which one?
North or
Wide
south?
open.
South or north?
South and south. And you you say to yourself, you take, there's no question. These institutions generate garbage, and I have not seen a perfect garbage dumpster yet. So I think I tasked my staff to come up with something, and I thought we did come up with something that's pretty good. And I think we need to implement it, because there isn't a good one. Obviously, the new store goes in here, they're gonna be responsible for their own garbage collection, similar to Habit Burger. They all have their own separate, containers there.
We can deal with that with food license, right?
Again, I think the biggest thing is, you're talking 300 feet, you still can have food there. You have 375 feet less of food. And then you have, I guess, maybe a nail salon that can only do one hand at a time.
They can massage one side of your body.
That's, I mean, that's my personal opinion. I don't think it's that detrimental. I think it's more detrimental to have the vacancy down there than anything else. It's not going to affect the park. I mean, for the most part, everybody knows what the parking is down there. The Total Wine generates a tremendous amount of traffic. Some of the other stores generate a tremendous amount of traffic. CVS, you can always find a parking space at that end of the mall. So, I mean, that would be my opinion. I don't think we have that much of a detrimental effect. And again, we don't know what's going to go in here. I think when you do find out what goes in there, then I think we attack all the other issues at that point.
Open to the public.
Just for information purposes, the master plan encourages food establishments.
Okay.
You know,
It's another way of saying.
not
Tom,
too
anything to
usual.
add or no?
Really, at this point, I will add that the initial approval in 2007 permitted 20% restaurant use, and as proposed, it's down to 16.3%.
16,
16.3% of the total square footage of the site.
so less than what was even approved. Take a motion to open to the public.
Motion to open to the
Dr.
public.
Hurwitz.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay, open to the public. Mr. Castle's out there all by himself. Motion to close to the public.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay, at this point, I'm prepared to take a motion from the floor. Somebody wants to move to approve this application?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gray, second by Mr. Grasso.
Incorporating everything that they applied for. Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Gerowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Grasso?
Yes.
Mr. Merman?
Yes.
Chair Killian?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, good to see you, gentlemen.
Take care.
Good luck.
Chris, you can come
We'll
back
probably
up.
see you back for the sign and,
Let's hope so. Let's hope they get a tenner in there, so I think it benefits everyone.
Mr. Grasso and Mr. Craig. Yes, you can do it here at home.
No, I'm looking for the open office.
Oh,
Jim, I just missed it. What was the reason that the original TODA application couldn't be heard?
their notice was late,
I just missed it when I walked in. Thanks.
and they have to redo it. Good evening, Chris. So we're gonna have, hopefully, have our attorney give the oath of office to Mr. Craig, who was re-upped at the last meeting, myself, and Mr. Grasso.
I was sworn in
You were
at the
sworn in
council
already,
meeting
so-
the other night.
So just me and Michael. If you can find it. If not, we can do it the next meeting. Or we could just
The,
sign the oath of office.
The League of
I want you
Municipalities
to
has
swear.
an oath of office.
we'll get it on camera.
I'll just get the paperwork. No problem.
I have a couple, are we under, board member comments?
Yes, one more.
Okay.
On New York Market, we're gonna move to carry that to the next meeting, which is
17th, I think.
2 weeks.
17th, yes. At
January
7:30.
January 17th at 7:30.
Mhm.
And I'll be sending a letter to the attorney for the applicant.
Mhm.
Councilor Schmidt, you want me to make the announcement?
Yes.
For anybody who's here this evening on New York Market, 625 Kindercamac Road, Block 614, Lot 8.02, it's being carried to January 17th, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. in these chambers. There will not be any further notice.
Okay. Now we can go to comments.
Yes. I have two. One was really for Mr. Skirbush, and I think I might have asked him this one before, I'm not quite sure. So, Tom, maybe you might know. 954 Kindercamac. That's the building north of Palmer Brothers. There is now a monument sign in the front yard. Did that ever come before this board? How did that monument sign get there?
Oh, that smile sign?
Yeah.
The dentist sign, right. I noticed that the other day, and I realized that.
He was before us, but I don't honestly recall if there was a sign for his parking lot.
Can we find out somehow?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't believe that they ever came up for a sign. They came before us for the approval to build it,
Right.
but I do not believe that they ever got that sign approved.
Oh.
Great mind thinks alike, because that was on my checklist this evening.
All right.
I pass it every day.
The other one, okay, so somebody's gonna, you'll look at that, okay, you might check with the building department or whatever, zoning, or of course, Skirbush himself, he might remember. Tom, is there a way we can get an annual planner's report for last year, for 2017? And maybe you can break that down into, planning board versus zoning board, and give us, there were some applications that were withdrawn, that would be nice to know those too. And maybe you could break some of those down as to whether we had C variances and D variances. I don't think we had many D variances.
So a summary of the board's.
Yeah, it's a summary of last year's action. That's it.
My only comment is, I know we've kicked around for the last year, putting together an ad hoc committee for sign recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
I think we definitely have to hop on that this year, so we can get that before the mayor and council. Chris, you wanna head that up? Sure. All right. Doc, you wanna be part of that? You have time?
I don't know that I have time right now.
I'll volunteer,
Michael?
because signs are very close to my heart.
Yeah. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, okay? Just call them, change numbers, whatever, but let's try to get that completed sometime, maybe March. All right, this way we can make our recommendation to the mayor and council and get moving on that.
We have to work very closely with Tom on
Yeah, Tom, of course, Tom,
that.
and
Yeah.
you'll be part of that. Thank you very much for that. For those that weren't here in the beginning, I just want to wish you all Happy New Year.
We have one more committee. We have a master plan committee that the mayor wanted to get going.
Let's wait for him to be here.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
This way we can discuss it more with him.
Right.
I wish everybody a Happy New Year, and I appreciate all the work everybody does up here. It's a great board. You guys had me sweating a little bit tonight because we didn't have a quorum. So, with that, I thank you all. If anybody else has anything?
No,
Nah, that's right, we'll do it. We'll just sign off, yep. Motion to adjourn. Sherwood, second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? I think so.
Is it hot in here?
Yes.
It is really hot.
Oh, my God.
That's why I was kinda...
That's why